Golden Knowledge Bite 6. How to measure the impact of knowledge exchange. Measuring the impact of knowledge exchange ensures feedback, continuous improvement and innovation in the way in which transfer of knowledge is undertaken. It's important for individuals to review, measure and analyse quantitatively and qualitatively their ability in knowledge exchange after they've gone through their secondment. How have you measured the impact of knowledge exchange?
The success that we measure as far as student goes is actually on the measure called success, and that is a combination of retention and achievement. So we are able to reflect as far as our students achieving at the examination or assignment level, so that's quite an easy factor. We also measure for the employers, so that's employer training but also employer satisfaction as far as training in industry, and also on their trials that they do, something called an EPOC, which funny enough is employer perception of course or trial, and that's fed into an electronic system that through our MIS gurus give us some data out to say what success. So we measure it I think on a 7-point scale, and on the top end we've got, from the middle end we've got neither satisfied or dissatisfied, moving up to extremely satisfied, and there's a scale.
I can honestly say that I've benefited greatly from the secondment. It gave me time out from my normal responsibilities here at university. So over extended stints I was able to concentrate solely on my research, and that included the publication of papers with North American colleagues, which is considered to be a great asset. And those publications eventually led to me being able to apply for promotion within my department. So I think from that perspective it's a big bonus.
At the moment there's very little formal measurement in place. Obviously we have, from the student end, we have some student feedback and peer observation and so forth. But I think the measurement of the success of KE will come as the RAE, Research Assessment Exercise, moves into REF, and I believe REF is going to be incorporating a measure of KE. Now that's where departments and universities in general will be very interested in devising measurements of our success. So we're going to be responsive in that. When we see what the framework is, then we will devise some way of measuring locally how successful we are.
What methods are used?
Throughout all this we use, for the students we use SPOCs. SPOCs are probably common across the board, so student perceptions course, and in there they will be directly asked about how they're not just getting on with the academic side but also their social side, because at this college we have 400 residential students, so they've got a life here as well. It's quite simple in our trials and development area, and that's repeat business. That's quite easy, that one. And industry will always tell you if you've got it wrong, because they're paying for it. With it again, and that encompasses our consultancy training as well, so that same area we go back time and time again to repeat some of the business that we do there.
Let's start with a student perspective. I've been able to incorporate my research into some of my lectures and thereby have assessment based on those, be they coursework or exam questions based on that. So that means that I can actually gauge the level of understanding of my students. In terms of industry, I take every opportunity I get when I attend meetings to actually raise points that I've learned from other companies and from abroad, so that it might be able to help them.
What's been the impact on continuous improvement and innovation in the workplace?
Going into industry has given me a different perspective on the way that they underpin their scientific techniques in the way that they do report writing, how they have perhaps weekly meetings to sort of discuss their progress, and it's something that I could implement here. Really, that more exchange of knowledge within my peer group, with my colleagues at Mid-Kent College.
Well, the main reason I had taken the secondment was to support my teaching, and in that respect it was very successful. I was able to stand up in front of my students and say that I did this and I did that while I was at Wallingford working in industry, and that immediacy of having the person who had done something in industry teaching them captures the students' attention. I've also found myself involved in committees relating to projects I was working on while in industry, and some of the research activities that I'm now following also very much follow on from the sort of jobs that I was doing while at Wallingford.
I think because of my secondment, I'm more able now to talk with industry and convince them that there's a benefit to them of sending their students here to learn. So I'm more au fait with techniques that are being used in industry, and I can impart that knowledge in the right way for the students who are coming here from industry, as well as those that are training from scratch as new entrants into a laboratory world.
Since doing the secondment then, the primary focus has been for me in three areas: automation and robotics, but also this techniques. So that's the reason I was in Rennes looking at some of the new novel things coming out there. That's led on to helping us with the build process, making sure that we've got the right equipment in the right place, doing the right things for our learning. And that probably comes in two folds. One for doing trials and development, so we can actually develop a product for a company, but also enable the student to learn on that same equipment. So let's make sure we've got the right equipment in the right place. In the factory workplace, encouraging them to look at, or not just stop at the science side of it, but apply that science into the technology. And part of our strength now bring to the party is actually, now we understand what the automation is doing ourselves, we can then say, well, this is why it's happening. It's the chemistry of this, it's the heat element in that, it's the fact that you've got a low pH there and you've got a high acidity there, you've got some extra solids in there, and your pasteuriser's not calibrated right, and it goes on. So we can actually help the other way. Now we understand more about automation, if that makes sense.
I think we've reassessed the way that we teach some things, so perhaps we give students more time to complete their tasks, and also we've introduced an element of regulation so that students are able to use the paperwork that they would in industry as well as the techniques. Going into an industry like Abbott Diagnostics, there was an amazing amount of paperwork that goes with each of the tasks that's carried out.
Well, in terms of teaching, if I take that as an example, I think in most traditional classes you may get lectures on what happens in the UK with UK companies, whereas I have been able to broaden that out and say these are the sort of things happening with large companies within Canada, for example, so names that students recognise as being international companies, and the same for United States of America. And I think that puts it in perspective as to what UK companies are doing in comparison to other companies in North America.